How I came to write the Hush Hush series in the first place. So I actually never imagined I would be a writer, interestingly enough. When I was in college, I wanted to be a spy. I laugh. I applied to the CIA twice, but they never called. So apparently they don't think that I would have made a very good spy, but I'm telling you guys, I would have rocked that job. Their loss. Hopefully they're crying now. I didn't think about writing until my husband surprised me by enrolling me in a writing class for my 24th birthday. That was 8 years ago. He had been debating between a Japanese cooking class and this writing class, and decided to go with the writing class because he knew that in college or university, in my 4 years there, I had taken one English class, and I was such a terrible writer that my teacher threatened to fail me. So my husband, being the jokester that he is, he thought it would be really funny to put me in this writing class with all of these people who were writers, and they have stories to tell, and they graduated college with degrees in English. And I went in there on that first day, and I had a really great attitude. I remember telling the teacher, I will show up every week for this 8-week writing class, but I'm not going to write anything. And even if I do write anything, I'm not sharing it with anyone else. So as you can imagine, I'm sure he was very excited to have me there in his class. And I didn't plan on writing anything. I literally just planned on going in there and sitting there every week until one week he gave us this assignment to write a scene showing humiliation. And for whatever reason, I was immediately struck by the memory of something that happened to me when I was in high school. So I was in 10th grade, which means I was about 16 years old. I was sitting in my biology class, and I was, not really paying attention. I was just kind of daydreaming, when all of a sudden my teacher called on me, and he said, Becca, why don't you stand up and tell the class the characteristics you would want in a boyfriend? Well, this was high school, so everyone just started laughing. And I was a really shy girl, so my face was just blazing red. I remember being so embarrassed. And I sat next to this really cute guy, and he was poking me in the side. Come on, Becca, tell us what you want in a man. It was awful. Well, in this writing class, I started writing about this scene that was very similar. I was writing about a girl who was 16, and she was sitting in her biology class. Her teacher asked her this same completely inappropriate question. I finished writing the scene, and then I went on to write 1 chapter, 2 chapters, 3 chapters, and when I had 3 chapters written, I thought, this story's awesome. Someone's going to want to publish it. So I decided to send it off to New York to see if I could get it published. So I was sending it to editors and agents, not realizing that if you want to get a story published, you need to have the entire book written. That's the key. So I sent these chapters off and started receiving many, many rejection letters for the book. And over the next 5 years, I would end up receiving just shy of 100 rejection letters for Hush Hush. And as you can imagine, there were many times when I felt like giving up, and I felt like, this story is not good enough. It's never going to get published. And I continued to rewrite the book over and over and over during those 5 years, and I just kept sending it out. And finally, in 2008, the woman who is my literary agent today, she emailed me and she said, I think I see something promising in this story. I think I might be able to get it published. But it's probably going to take a lot of work, and you're going to need to rewrite it yet again. And, there'll be many more rejections, and it'll probably take us a year if we are able to sell it. But I want to do it. So I signed with her, and she sent it out to editors, and one in particular loved the book and bought it. And here we are today. And it's still incredible to me to think that, I am here because of one little turn in my life, where if my husband hadn't signed me up for that class, I wouldn't be here. And, I think that's important, that our lives, as we look back, we can see how all of the little steps and all the little turns we've made have led us to where we are today. So, the second thing that I wanted to talk about is how I got the cover for my first book, Hush Hush. One of the most common questions I get from readers is either I love your cover or I hate your cover, and I want to know why you chose the cover you did. Well, the truth is, I would say around 99% of authors have absolutely no say in their covers whatsoever. I have one friend who didn't even find out what the cover of her book looked like until she accidentally came across it on Amazon. So, if you think we're deeply involved in the process, that's not always the case. But I feel really fortunate because my publisher did ask for a lot of input into all 3 of my covers. And for the first one, they started out by letting me choose the models who would play Patch and Nora. My editor sent over several model headshots, and she said, you know, choose Patch and Nora. So I did that. I chose the models, and the particular model they chose to play Patch, they called him up. His name's Drew. They called him up and they said, this author has selected you to be on the cover of her book. We want you to show up for the photo shoot wearing nothing but skinny black jeans. And as you can imagine, he was a little wary. What am I getting myself into? And he didn't own a pair of skinny black jeans, so he went to the mall, bought some jeans, showed up at the photo shoot. And if you've read my books, they're about fallen angels. And these fallen angels in my stories, when they're banished from heaven, their wings are ripped out, so they can't, you know, sneak back into heaven. They can't fly back in. So the model, Drew, spent 2 hours in makeup getting these wing scars, these massive wing scars. I wish I could show you guys a picture. Painted on his back. And then he spent the next 6 hours doing backflips on this trampoline, this giant trampoline in the studio, while the photographer was down there trying to get the perfect shot. And obviously Drew is a model, so taking care of his body is important to him. He works out a lot. But he told me that after this 6-hour photo shoot, it was such an intense workout, he did not work out the rest of the week. As I can imagine, I don't think I'd want to be on a trampoline doing backflips for 6 hours. When they finished the photo shoot, my editor sent me her 4 favorite shots, and some of them included just Patch, and some of them had both Patch and Nora, and she said, I want you to choose the shot you like the best, and that's the one we'll go with. Well, this is the shot I actually fell in love with. It was this picture right here. And I told my editor, I said, I love it, this is the one I want. So she sent it to the graphic designer who works, you know, making the covers, and she got it all ready. And then something I didn't know is that when my publisher, or when any publisher finishes a cover, what they do is they send it out to bookstores to get bookstores' feedback on the cover. And one bookstore in the United States in particular said, we want you to rotate the shot to this because we feel like it's more provocative. It stands out a lot more. It's far more striking. So we rotated the photo this way, despite the fact that the photographer was protesting that people do not fall up through the sky. One reader, I think it was here actually in England last year, she told me to tell people if they asked why he's falling up that he's been hit by a lightning bolt and it's striking him back. So thanks to that reader for the explanation. So now I'm going to tell you guys a story, because something else I'm asked a lot by readers is, where do you get your inspiration? Do we have any writers in the room? Anybody who's, okay, so quite a few. So you probably get asked a lot too, where do you get your story ideas from? You know, what's the inspiration? Well, as I mentioned earlier, the whole reason I started writing these books is because of something that happened to me when I was in high school. And I do that a lot. In fact, when I use a lot of experiences from my own life. When I'm writing the books, I go back and I read the journals I kept when I was in middle school and high school. And I try to recapture that feeling of falling in love for the first time, feeling betrayal for the first time, complicated family situations, all that good stuff. And I don't do this very often, but in Crescendo, I ripped an experience straight out of my life and put it into Crescendo. So, all right, here in London, in a high school, if a guy wants to ask a girl to a dance, how does he do it? Maybe they don't ask the girl. All right, we've got a hand back here.
Send a text message.
Send a text message, yes, okay. That's a normal way to ask someone to a dance, send a text message. Well, I grew up in Nebraska, but, and in Nebraska, a guy would do the same thing. He would send a text message or he would call the girl. But my senior year of high school, my family moved to this little town called Pocatello, Idaho. Has anyone ever heard of it? No, I hadn't either before I moved there. So we moved to Pocatello, Idaho. And in Pocatello, when a guy or a girl wants to ask someone to a dance, they have to do something really special to get the person's attention. For example, one of my friends, he went to a girl's house and he filled her bathtub with water. And then he put all these goldfish in the bathtub. And then he put a sign on the wall that said, out of all the fish in the sea, you're the one for me. Will you go to the dance with me? Aww. So sweet. So, this is the kind of pressure I was facing. I just moved there. Spring Fling was coming up, and my friends wanted me to ask this guy named Bo to the dance. And Bo was really popular, he was really athletic, and I was not popular, and I was, not cool, so I knew there was no way Bo would go to the dance with me. And on a side note, only in Pocatello would a guy named Bo be really popular. He was. And my friends wanted me to ask him, and I said, no, you guys, there's no way Bo will go to the dance with me. I'm not going to ask him. And they said, oh, he will say yes, because we've got this super awesome way you can ask him. Well, I succumbed to peer pressure. I decided to ask Bo, despite the fact that I knew there was no way he would say yes. So my friend's super awesome idea on how I could ask Bo was to get this hot dog and put it in a bun and put ketchup